Good morning. It is Saturday. AA day. Oh, we'll wait a couple minutes and let people come in. Good morning, Facebook side. Good morning, YouTube side. Of course, you're going to hear the dog chomping on his toy. He waits until I go live to do anything, basically. Crazy dog. So, seeing as this is AA meeting, please do not judge people. Don't harass them. Be kind to each other. And just remember that if they're in the chat, that does not make them a recovering alcoholic. They might be here for supporting my channel or learning ways to help a friend or family member to find their sobriety. And that is why I do these meetings. So, with that being said, let's get on with the meeting. I'm Sandra and I'm an alcoholic. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And we are in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book, Step 4, which is on page 42. I always put it in the description, so if you're watching the replay and I talk too fast or whatever, it is in the description. Step 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Creation gave us instinct for a purpose. Without them, we wouldn't be complete human beings. If men and women didn't exert themselves to be secure in their person, made no effort to harvest food or construct shelter, there would be no survival. If they didn't reproduce, the earth wouldn't be populated. Mike, can you give me a Sprite, please? If there were no social instinct, if men cared nothing for society or of one another, there would be no society. So these desires for the sex relation, for material and emotional security, and for companionship are perfectly necessary and right and secure God given, or surely God given. Good morning, Lily. Yet these instincts, so necessary for an existence of 10, far exceed their proper function, powerfully, blindly, many times subtly, thank you. Then they drive us, dominate us, and instincts upon ruling our lives. Our desires for sex, for material, and for emotional security. Our desire for sex, for material and emotional security, and for an important place in society of often ty- tyrannizes us. When thus out of joint, man's natural desire caused him great trouble, practically all the troubles there is. Hello, Ava. No human being, however good, is exempt from these troubles. Nearly every serious emotional problem can be seen as a case of misdirect instinct. When that happens, our great natural asset, the instinct, have turned into physical and mental liabilities. Step 4 is our vigorous and painstaking effort to discover what these liabilities in each of us have been and are. We want to find exactly how, when, and where our natural desires have warped us. We wish to look squarely at the unhappiness this has caused others and ourselves. By discovering what our emotional deformities are, we can move toward their correction. Without a willing and persistent effort to do this, there are, there can be little sobriety or contentment for us. Without a searching and fearless moral inventory, most of us have found that faith, which really works in daily living, is still out of reach. Before tackling the inventory problem in detail, let's have a closer look at what the basic problem is. Simple examples like the following take on a world of meaning when we think about them. Excuse me. Suppose a person placed sex desire ahead of everything else. In such a case, this imperious urge can destroy his chance for material and emotional security as well as his standing in the community. Another may develop such an obsession for financial security that he wants to do nothing but hoard money. Going to the extreme, he can become a miser or even a recluse who denies himself both family and friends. Nor is the quest for security always expressed in terms of money. How frequently we see a frightened human being determined to depend completely upon a stronger person for guidance and protection. This weak one, failing to meet life's responsibilities with his own resources, never grows up. Disillusionment and helplessness are his lot. In time, all of his prospectors either flee or die, and he is once more left alone and afraid. He has also seen men and women who go power mad, who devote themselves to attempt to rule their fellows. These people often throw to the winds every chance for legitimate security and a happy family life. Whenever a human being becomes a battleground for the instincts, there can be no peace. But this is not all of the danger. Every time a person imposes his instinct unreasonably upon others, unhappiness follows. If the pursuit of wealth tramples upon people who happen to be in the way, then anger, jealousy, and revenge are likely to be aroused. If sex runs riot, there is a familiar uproar, demand made upon other people for too much attention, protection, and love can only invite domination and revulsion to the prospector themselves, two emotions quite as unhealthy as the demands which invoke them. When an individual desires for prestige becomes uncontrollable, whether it's the sewing circle or at the international conference table, other people suffer and often revolt. This conclusion of instincts can produce anything from a cold snub to a blazing revelation. In these ways, we are set in conflict not only with ourselves, but with other people who have instincts too. Alcoholics, especially, should be able to see that instinct run wild in themselves is the underlying cause of their destructive drinking. We have drunk to drown feelings of fear, frustration, and depression. We have drunk to escape the guilt and of passion, and then have drunk again to make more passion possible. We have drunk for vainglory that we might the more enjoy foolish dreams of prompt and power. This perverse sickness is not pleasant to look upon. Instincts of rampage balk at investigation the minute we make a serious attempt to probe them. We are liable to suffer severe reactions. If temporarily we are on the depressive side, we are apt to be swamped with guilt and self loathing. We wallow in this messy bog, often getting a misshapen and painful pleasure out of it, as we morbidly morbidly pursue the this ma- magali activity. We may sink to such a point of despair that nothing but oblivion looks possible as a solution. Here, of course, we have lost all perspective, and therefore all genuine humility, for this is pride in reverse. This is not a moral inventory at all. It is the very process by which the depressive has so often been led to the bottle and extinction. If, however, our natural disposition is inclined to self righteousness or grandiosity, our reaction will be just the opposite. We will be offended at a suggestion inventory. No doubt we shall point with pride to the good lives we thought we led before the bottle cut us down. We shall claim that our serious character defects, if we think we have any at all, have had caused chiefly by excessive drinking. This being so, we think it logically follows that sobriety, first, last, and all the time, is the only thing we need to work for. We believe that our one time good character will be revived the moment we quit alcohol. If we were pretty nice people all along, except for our drinking, what need is there for a moral inventory now that we are sober? We also clutch at another wonderful excuse for avoiding an inventory. Excuse me. Our present anxieties and troubles we cry are caused by the behavior of other people. People who really need a moral inventory. We firmly believe that if only they'd treat us better, we'd be all right. Therefore, we think of in, in, indignation is justified and reasonable. That our resentment are the right kind. We aren't the guilty ones, they are. This one's long, so I'm probably not going to read the whole thing. At this stage of the inventory proceedings, our sponsors come to the rescue. They can do this, for they are the carriers of AA's tested experience with step 4. They comfort the Melon. I don't know how to say that word. One by first showing him that his case is not strange or different, that his character defects are probably not more numerous or worse than those of anyone else in AA. This the sponsor promptly proves by talking freely and easily and without exorbitism about his own defects, past and present. This calm yet realistic stock taking is immensely reassuring. The sponsor probably points out that the newcomer has some asset which can be noted along with his liabilities. This tends to clear away morbidity and encourage balance. As soon as he begins to be more objective, the newcomer can fearlessly, rather than fearfully, look at his own defects. The sponsor of those who feel they need no inventory are confronted with quite another problem. This is because people who are driven by pride of self unconsciously blind themselves to their liabilities. These newcomers scarcely need comforting. The problem is to help them discover a chink in the walls their their ego has built, through which the light of reason can shine. First off, they can be told that the majority of AA's members have suffered severely from self justification during their drinking days. For most of us, self justification was the maker of excuses. Excuses, of course, for drinking and for all kinds of crazy and damaging conduct. We had made the inventory of alibis a fine art. We had to drink because times were hard or times were good. We had to drink because at home we were smothered with love or got none at all. We had to drink because at work we were great successes or dismal failures. We had to drink because our nation had won a war or lost the peace. And it went ad infinitum. We thought conditions drove us to drink, and when we tried to correct these conditions and found that we couldn't to our entire satisfaction, our drinking went out of hand and we became alcoholics. It never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. But in AA, we slowly learned that something had to be done about our vengeful resentments, self pity, and unwarranted pride. We had to see that every time we played the big shot, we turned people against us. We had to see that when we harbored grudges and planned revenge for such defeats, we were really beating ourselves with the club of anger we had intended to use on others. We learned that if we were seriously disturbed, our first need was to quiet the disturbance, regardless of who or what we thought caused it. To see how erratic emotions victimize us often took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. First of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. This required great willingness even to begin, but once over the first two or three high hurdles, the course ahead began to look easier, for we had started to get perspective on ourselves, which in other ways of saying that we were gaining in humility. Of course, the depressive and the powerful driver of personality extremes, types with which AA and the whole world abound, often these personalities are just as sharply defined as the examples given, but just as often some of us will fit more or less into both classifications. Human beings are never quite alike, so each of us, when making an we will will need to determine what his individual character defects are. Having found the shoe that fits, he ought to step into them and walk with new confidence that he is at last on the right track. Now let's ponder the need for a list of the more glaring personality defects all of us have in varying degrees. To those having religious training, such a list would set forth serious violations of moral principles. Some others will think of this list as defects of character. Still others will call it an index of misjustments, ma- maladjustic, whatever that word is. Some will become quite annoyed if there is talk about immorality, let alone sin. But all who are in the least reasonable will agree upon one point, that there is plenty wrong with us alcoholics mm, about which plenty of us have to be done if we are to expect sobriety, progress, and ability, any real ability to cope with life. To avoid falling into confusion over the names these defects should be called, let's take a universally recognized list of major human failings, the seven deadly sins of pride: greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. It is not by accident that pride heads the precision, for pride leading the self justification and always spurred by confusion or conscious or unconscious fear is the basic breeder of most human difficulties, the chief block to true progress. Pride lures us into making demand upon ourselves or upon others, which cannot be met without perverting our misusing our God given instincts. When the satisfaction of our instincts for sex, security, or and society become the sole object of our lives, then pride steps in to justify our excesses. All these failings generate fear. No, Copper. A soul sickness in its own right. Then fear in turn generates more character defects. Unreasonable fear that our instincts will not be satisfied drives us to convert the possession of others, to lust for sex and power, to become angry when our instinctive demands are threatened, to be envious when the ambitions of others seem to be realized while ours are not. We eat, drink, and grab for more of everything than we need, fearing we shall never have enough, and with genuine alarm at the prospect of work, we stay lazy, with loaf and procrastinate, or at best work grudgingly and under half steam. These fears are the termites that seasonally devour the foundation of whatever sort of life we try to build. So, when AA suggests a fearless moral inventory, it must must seem to every newcomer that more is being asked of him than he can do. Both his pride and his fear beat him back every time he tries to look within himself. Pride says, "You need not pass." Let's see how long I've been on. Okay. You need not pass this way, and fear says, you dare not look. But the testimony of AAs who have really tried a moral inventory is that pride and fear of this sort turn complete oh, turn out to be boogeymen, nothing else. Once we have a complete willingness to take inventory and exert ourselves to do the job thoroughly, a wonderful light falls upon this. I'm going to finish it. Foggy scene. As we persist, a brand new kind of confidence is born, and the sense of relief at finally facing our fears is increasingly. These are the first fruits of step 4. By now, the newcomer has probably arrived at the following conclusion: that his character defects represent instinct gone astray, have been the primary cause of his drinking and his failure at life. That unless he is now willing to work hard at the elimination of the worst of these defects, both sobriety and peace of mind will still elude him. That all the faulty foundation of his life will have to be torn out and built anew on bedrock. Now willing to commence the search for his own defects, he will ask, just how do I go about this? How do I take inventory of myself? Since step 4 is about the beginning of a lifetime practice, it can be suggested that he first have a look at those personal flaws which are acutely troublesome and fairly obvious. Using his best judgment of what has been right and what has been wrong, he might make a rough survey of his conduct with respect to his primary instinct for sex, security, and society. Looking back over his life, he can readily get underway by consideration of questions such as these: when and how and in just what instance did my selfish pursuit of the sex relation damage other people and me? What people were hurt and how badly? Did I spoil my marriage and injure my children? Did I jeopardize my standing in the community? Just how did I react to these situations at the time? Did I burn with guilt that nothing could extinguish? Or did I insist that I was the pursued and not the pursuer, and thus absolve myself? How have I reacted to frustrations in sexual matters? When did I become vengeful or depressed? Did I take it out on other people? If there was rejection or coldness at home, did I use this as a reason to promiscuity? Also of importance for most alcoholics are the questions they must ask about their behavior, respecting financial and emotional security. In these areas, fear, greed, possessiveness, and pride have too often done their work. Surveying his business of employment record, almost any alcoholic can ask questions like these. In addition to my drinking problem, uh, I skipped the sentence. In addition to the drinking problem, what character defects contributed to my financial instability? Did fear or inferiority about my fitness for my job destroy my confidence and fill me with conflict? Did I try to cover up those feelings of inadequacy by bluffing, cheating, lying, or evading responsibility? Or by gripping that others failed to recognize my truly explanation, yeah, expectational abilities? Did I overvalue myself and play the big shot? Did I have such unprincipled ambition that I double crossed and undercut my associates? Was I extravagant? Did I recklessly borrow money, caring little whether it was repaid or not? Was I a pinch penny, refusing to support my family properly? Did I cut corners financially? What about the quick money deals, the stock market, and the races? Businesswomen in AA will naturally find that many of these questions apply to them too. But the alcoholic housewife can also make the family financially insecure. She can juggle charging accounts, manipulate the food budget, spend her afternoon gambling, and run her husband into debt, or by irresponsibility, waste, and extravagance. But all alcoholics who have drunk themselves out of jobs, families, and friends will need to cross examine themselves ruthlessly to determine how their own personality defects have them demolished their security. The most common symptom of emotional insecurity are worry, anger, self pity, and depression. These stem from causes which sometimes seem to be within us, and at other times to come from without. To take inventory in this respect, we ought to consider carefully in all personal relationships which bring conscious or recurring troubles. It should be remembered that this kind of insecurity may arise in any area where instincts are threatened. Questioning direct to this end might run like this. Looking at both past and present, what sex situations have caused me anxiety, bitterness, frustration, or depression? Appraising each situation fairly, can I see where I have been at fault? Did these perplexities beset me because of selfishness or unreasonable demand? Or if my disturbance was seemingly because by the behavior of others, why do I lack the ability to accept conditions I cannot change? These are the sort of fundamental inquiries that can disclose the source of my discomfort and indicate whether I may be able to alter my own conduct and so adjust myself serenely to self discipline. Suppose the financial insecurity constantly arouses these same feelings. I can ask myself, to what extent have my own mistakes fed my gnawing anxiety? And if the action of others are part of the cause, what can I do about that? If I am unable to change the present state of affairs, am I willing to take the measures necessary to shape my life to conditions as they are? Questions like these, more of which will come to mind easily in each individual case, will help turn up the root causes. But it is from our twisted relations with family, friends, and society at large that many of us have suffered most. We have been especially stupid and stubborn about them. The primary fact that we fail to recognize in our total inability to form a true partnership with another human being. Our egomania digs two disastrous pitfalls. Either we insist upon dominating the people we know, or we depend upon them far too much. If we lean too heavily on people, they will soon or later fail us, for they are humans too, and cannot possibly meet our incessant demand. In this way, our insecurity grows and festers. When we habitually try to manipulate others to our own willful desires, they revolt and resist us heavily. Then we develop hurt feelings, a sense of per- per- persecution, and a desire to retaliate. As, the, as we round about our effort at control and continue to fail, our suffering becomes acute and constant. We have not once sought to be one in the family, to be a friend among people, or to be a friend among friends, to be a worker among workers, to be a useful member of society. Always we try to struggle to the top of the heap or to hide underneath it. This self centered behavior blocked a partnership relation with any one of those about us. Of true brotherhood we had small comprehension. Some will object to many of the questions posed because they think their own character defects have not been so glaring. To these, it can be suggested that a consist, constituous, conspicuous examination is likely to reveal the very defect. The objectionable question are concerned with because our surface record hasn't looked too bad. We have frequently been abashed to find that this is so simply because we have buried these self same defects deep down in the under thick layer of self justification. Whatever the defect, they have finally ambushed us into alcoholism and misery. Therefore, through the throughness ought to be the watchword when taking inventory. In this connection, it is wise to write out our questions and answer it with answers. It will be an aid to clear thinking and honest appraisal. It will be the first tangible evidence of our complete willingness to move forward. And that's the end of step 4. For me, step 4 was really, really hard. It took me a couple months to get to step 4. Um, but I needed to have time and space, just me, and sit down and write my my yeah my resentments and admit what I had, admit things that I had done in my alcoholism and be honest to someone who I didn't know very well, and that is my sponsor. But see, when you have a sponsor, it makes it so you can go to that person, and regardless if you're first beginning and you get your first sponsor and you're iffy about it, give it time. Because with time, you start to know your sponsor and your sponsor starts to know you. And so you feel better about sharing these things just outright. So when I first started, I did step 4, I wrote it out, and now I just do them every day, regardless. And if I get mad, I automatically apologize. It might take me a few minutes, but I do it anyway. But that's part of step 4. You need to like get through it and write your resentments down. And so I did that. And you don't have to rush at it. You can take time. You can take your time on it because sometimes that's what you need is that little bit of time to reflect on things from those days if you can remember them. There's one fuzzy day for me, and that was when I hit my eye. Um, but that's just because I don't remember what happened. I don't remember what my face hit. I don't remember uh, saying that my sister punched me when she hadn't. Um, I don't remember asking my husband to get me more booze. But see, that's the alcohol. The alcohol is all you think about, and that's what I was thinking about. I didn't care about my eyeball. It was cracked open and bleeding, and I wanted to go code red out of the hospital 3 times. So, with my face bleeding. But it does get easier after you do your your 4th step. Um, what I did was I wrote it down. I gave it to my sponsor. She read it, and I held on to it for a little while longer. Her and I were the only ones that saw it. And one of my biggest things was something that was not even my fault. I was just the victim, and now I'm the survivor. But I've been vocal about that part of my life, and um, so knowing that it wasn't my fault, because my sponsor helped me to realize that that was not my fault, that I needed to let that go and needed to let all the rest of my resentments go and change my thinking. I was able to, maybe a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, I was able to take my writing and I burned it because that's what I thought about those then, and that's still how I feel about those now. I'm not that same person. I'm glad I am not that person. All right, love you, Lil. Get some sleep. Hope you feel better soon. But, having gone through all of the things that my life put me through, I can tell you that you can make it. This this work is hard. You're gonna think it's really, really hard, but in the end, it is so very worth it. And every day that I've been sober, whether it's been me crying or me mad or whatever, um, it's been worth it, completely worth it. And I have friends and I have fellowships that I go to, and I have sponsees and I have a sponsor. And, you know, since my sobriety, I've been able to get a job and hold a job. Um, Before I just didn't think I could ever get a job, but I got a job camp hosting, and then from there I went to Amazon, and then from that one I went to another Amazon, and now I'm a caregiver. So you know, it it's been different being sober, and it's definitely worth it. And anybody celebrating a birthday today or the past week, well, since Tuesday, congratulations. Sobriety is a wonderful thing, and yeah. So I will be back on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time for another AA meeting. I'm going to be thinking about changing things up some, so um, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and share, and hit the notification bell for more videos, because AA is not all I do on my channel. So I love you guys, and I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer, and then I'll read the Daily Reflection over here on YouTube, and I'll post it over there on my uh, Facebook wall. So I love you guys in Facebook. I see you on Tuesday. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. And if you guys don't have an app for your daily reflections, the apps are free and you can get all kinds of stuff that you can read, and it's just great. It even has the big book in there, the 12 steps in there, the traditions, it has a lot of stuff. And then it also will keep track of your sobriety date. So today is Friday, February 3rd. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as man can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we empathetically assure him that he is on his way. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 47. I was always fascinated with the study of scientific principles. I was emotionally and physically distant from people while I pursued absolute knowledge. God and spirituality were meaningless. Academics, exercise. I was a modern man of science. Knowledge was my higher power. Given the right set of equations, life was merely another problem to solve. Yet my inner self was dying for more outer man solutions to life problems, and the solution was alcohol. In spite of my intelligence, alcohol became my higher power. It was through the unconditional love which emanated from AA's people and meetings that as I was able to discard alcohol as my higher power. The great void was filled. I was no longer lonely and apart from life. I had found a true power greater than myself. I had found God's love. There is only one equation which really matters to me now. God is AA. Copyright 1990 by Alcoholics Anonymous World Service Incorporated. And that is a wrap for today's meeting. So I love you guys and thank you for being here. If you're new, watch the replay. If you haven't watched, I have them all on my channel if you want. I've been trying to work on a playlist. So, yeah. I hope you guys have a wonderful day and stay safe, stay positive, and remember you're not alone. There are many people that have the same issue. So just know that there's people that care always. And if you need help with your alcoholism, please go to AA. Contact your library or wherever you can get your books from. You can get them pretty much from anywhere. So I suggest that and get a sponsor. Sponsors are wonderful. Even though you may not always agree, but they are wonderful. So with that, I love you guys and have a wonderful day.